It is a Wednesday night on Mark Rogers TV. That means we're talking Alabama football with Stephen M. Smith from Touchdown Alabama. Please join him there for the best in a Tide coverage, every sport included. Stephen, how you doing tonight?
Doing good. I just got finished watching the NBA Finals. Golden State got the win there. Kevin Durant getting the MVP. Steph Curry still being Steph Curry. And LeBron, despite averaging that triple-double throughout the finals, LeBron could not get Cleveland that second title.
Well, LeBron maybe have had a little bit more of the burden to shoulder compared to Kevin Durant, a little bit more responsibility, pretty much 30 seconds of time on the bench for LeBron per game. Had quite a bit to do, had the ball in his hands most of the time, so not necessarily a fair fight there, but once KD joined the Warriors, they were in great shape to wrap up the title, and Cleveland gave it a go, but didn't quite have the firepower. Now, you talk about talent, and you talk about a winning formula. Front seven, front four in particular in college football is required. It's a must-have if you're going to win championships, and especially in the SEC. And Alabama certainly had the guns up front. And let's talk about what they have coming into 2017, Stephen. So we go through this drill every year. We talk about the production lost, and maybe this year a little bit more significant than what it's been in the past. We've talked about the tackles for loss and the sack production lost off this team in 2016. That's remarkable that they'll have to make up for. Jonathan Allen gone from the stellar group up front, along with a guy that you love in Dalvin Tomlinson, who had 62 tackles, and Dakota Ball, who chipped in. So talk about the transition of some of these other guys stepping in, led by Deshaun Hand.
Deshaun Hand and Deron Payne, 2 5-stars, are going to be the leaders on this defensive line next season. Deshaun Hand, we all remember, a 5-star recruit from Woodbridge, Virginia, in that 2014 signing class. Everybody expected big things from him. It took him a moment to get stronger in the weight room, to get more sound on the field, and also to study more game film to learn how to play at that defensive end position. Of course, he watched quite a bit of Jonathan Allen a season ago and during the 2015 season. So Deshaun Hand, a big year expected from him. But also Deron Payne coming into his junior year out of Shades Valley High School in Birmingham, Alabama, already one of the strongest players on the team. He's got a pretty quick 40 time, very loud on his feet, but can also pressure from the inside, something that Nick Saban had been working on with him all throughout last season. And Dalvin Tomlinson also helping Deron Payne with pressuring from the inside, using those hands to get offensive linemen off of you and attacking the quarterback, but also creating those tackles for loss in the running game in the backfield. So Deshaun Hand, Deron Payne, the two that have played a lot of football, will be counted on very so much this year. But some guys that will be looked at also would be Quentin Williams, the redshirt freshman coming in next season. A lot of people comparing him to Jonathan Allen. Quentin Williams, young man out of Winona High School in Birmingham, Alabama, at 6'4", 284 pounds. And along with him, you've got Raekwon Davis, Joshua Frazier, the young man from Springdale, Arkansas, who's shown some flashes, but Alabama wanting to see more consistency from him. And then there's Johnny Dwight. Alabama also having some guys from the 2017 class, JUCO transfer, Isaiah Buggs from Mississippi Gulf Community College, also LeBron Ray and Phil Mathis, who also came to that 2017 class. So Bama, it's got some guys to play with, to rotation around, but it all starts with Deron Payne and Deshaun Hand, two guys that have played a ton of football at the capstone thus far.
I was looking at some statistics, not in terms of tackles for loss, and so forth, and sacks, but looking at these guys and what they can do in the weight room, Stephen, and I know you are well aware of this. Deshaun Hand squatting 545 or 635 and benching 545. Isaiah Buggs, his numbers from the JUCO ranks almost as impressive. So these guys are men showing up on the defensive line here.
Scott Cochran, that's tribute to strength and conditioning coach Scott Cochran. If you remember his interview, Mark, on 60 Minutes some years back, he was asked on what does he bring to the table as a strength and conditioning coach, and Scott Cochran made the famous remark, I don't do nothing. They come in full-blooded Lamborghinis. I just put spinners on them. So that was Scott Cochran's favorite. That was Scott Cochran's famous quote there. He continues to put spinners, on these guys, putting the finishing polish on these boys when it comes down to the workout routine, the nutrition regimen, and just keeping these guys in top physical condition.
Some of these guys that are coming in from the 2017 signing class, of course, have the many stars next to their names. Do you expect any of these guys, talking about LeBron Ray out of Madison, Alabama, #1 defensive end on the weak side there, Phidarian Mathis out of Louisiana, top 10 defensive tackle, and Jerez Parks, any of those guys out of Sebastian, Florida, they could possibly break into the rotation?
I definitely see Phil Mathis and LeBron Ray more in particular because of his prowess on that inside, being able to rush the quarterback. And it's something that Nick Saban prides himself more so on now, but in recent years, if you go back to the earlier seasons of Nick Saban, we're talking 2008, 2009, 2010, and so forth, probably up to that 2014 year in particular, Alabama wasn't really known for having those guys on the outside that could consistently rush the passer with an edge to them and constantly have that speed and that edge, twitching edge, bending ability. And then you bring in a Ryan Anderson and a Tim Williams that brought both of those things to the table, and also Jonathan Allen from a defensive end perspective that brought that to the table. So Saban more so now and getting these guys that can help get you 240 and 50 plus sacks a season. Back then it was you had to blitz a defensive back, you had to blitz a corner, you had to blitz a safety, because Alabama was recruiting the big hulky guys on the line, but not the ones that had the quick footwork or the ones that had the best hand technique in firing off the football and getting to the quarterback. Now that you're getting a mixture of guys that not just have the size, but the footwork, the hands, the skill set, the mindset, all of it coming together, it pays to have those guys in getting to the quarterback so you can produce those 40 to 50 plus sacks a year. So that's why I'm saying more so a Brian Ray than a Phil Mathis. But I think having all these guys on the defensive line are important, Mark, because outside of linebacker, where Saban just recruits freak athletes and signs 6 to 7 guys at linebacker each and every year, it doesn't matter if you have a 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, or 5-star on the defensive line. When somebody has to come out for a breather, when somebody has to come out for a play, or a group of guys have to come out, you have to have those next wave of bodies come in and provide the same type of production.
We talk college football each and every day here at Mark Rogers TV, but we really zero in on Alabama football on Wednesday night in particular with Stephen M. Smith from Touchdown Alabama. So what you do is you join us live at approximately 6:30 Eastern time on my YouTube channel at Mark Rogers TV. But if you don't catch us live, the full conversation is available at YouTube as soon as it posts there at Mark Rogers TV. We also break down the individual segment topics. So if you just want to hear the discussion about, let's say, the Alabama running back position, we have those available in shorter segments. And if you don't want to see us, you just want to hear from us, that's okay too. We're available at Podbean and at iTunes at Mark Rogers TV. Just look up Alabama football right there. Stephen M. Smith breaking down the D-line for us, getting us set for the first week of August camp with, I couldn't believe it today, Stephen, when I looked it up and saw that Media Days is just around the corner. This used to be an end of July event. Now it's July 10th that the SEC convenes in Hoover.
I'm going to say this, they're trying to give us, a heart attack, trying to make it earlier to what it needs to be, but that's fine with me. It lets me know that the summer is progressing fine and we're just that much closer to getting some gridiron football back. I'm fine with it.
Well, I'm fine with the football. There's no question about that. But in terms of the summer being left, we just got started with the summer, and we're looking at media days already. And then me trying to cover all the 5 major conferences. Plus, I'm looking at media days for the next 3 weeks after that. Talking linebacker. Let's move you on to the linebacker, Stephen. Reuben Foster. We love his game, love his leadership on the field. Some of the issues off the field, I think, were a little bit overplayed, especially at the combine. Look at the linebacker position as we get set up for 2017 and how that sets up.
At the linebacker position, 2 of the main guys returning. We look at Sean Dion Hamilton and Rashaan Evans. Sean Dion Hamilton out of Montgomery, Alabama, Carver High School, going into his senior year. This was a young man that was starting to really flow and be an instinctive leader a season ago. 64 tackles on the team. Had a couple of interceptions. Really felt bad when he got hurt toward the ACL against Florida in the SEC championship game. Was really having a good year prior to that point. But at that point, Rashaan Evans had to step in and play some snaps at inside backer. But both Sean Dion and Rashaan Evans will share that responsibility at inside linebacker from time to time. And at times, Rashaan will play more so that outside role. But those 2 guys are your main 2. After those 2 guys, you look at Mack Wilson, who can possibly start at a weak side linebacker position or a strong side spot in Alabama's base defense. Here's a guy that's an exact clone of Reuben Foster. When you talk about the thumping ability, make hard hits. Of course, Speedy Noyle caught that firsthand in Alabama's matchup with Texas A&M as Wilson plows Speedy Noyle to the turf. And while he's getting a concussion examination, Speedy Noyle has a tooth missing. So that's how powerful Mack Wilson is when he goes at you laying a hit on people with the ball in question. Aside from Mack Wilson, we have Keith Holcomb, young man from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Hillcrest High School, going into his, I believe, redshirt senior year, if I am not mistaken, and somebody he's got experience but hasn't played much. He's dealt with some injuries. He's a 2-sport athlete playing both football and baseball, but I really want to get a chance to see more from Keith Holcomb next season. He kind of reminds you a lot of Benny Sunseri, the way Sunseri played in the secondary for Alabama, just a natural head hunter, a natural tackler, just a physical player. If he can just stay healthy, the sky is the limit for Keith Holcomb. And then you add in some guys like Anthony Jennings, Terrell Hall, Jamie Mosley, Christian Miller, and that edge rushing linebacker position. Also, Mekhi Brown. There is a fight for that jack linebacker role, and outside linebackers coach Tosh Lapoy knows it's a fight for that role. Christian Miller right now has the edge because of his quick twitching ability, but I would not sleep on Anthony Jennings. I wouldn't sleep on Terrell Hall. I definitely wouldn't sleep on C.J. Mosley's younger brother, Jamie Mosley, because he showed me a lot of things at Alabama spring game. So a fight there at that edge rushing, that outside linebacker position. But as far as some of the freshmen that could make an impact at the spot, Mark, I love Dylan Moses. This kid, Dylan Moses, out of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, played at IMG Academy. Check the numbers. He's 6'5", 240. Good guy. 6'5", 240, roaming sideline to sideline. Defensive coordinator Jeremy Pruitt does it again with getting these physical specimens at linebacker that he expects to step in, come in, and immediately produce. But I think the linebackers at the leadership role, Sean Dion Hamilton, Rashaan Evans, and then after those 2, just a litter of talent that can play and make an impact.
All right, folks, if you're going to check out the productivity of this linebacking core from 2016, past Rashaan Evans and Sean Dion Hamilton, you're not going to see a whole lot. As you mentioned, Stephen, Anthony Jennings got into the mix, had 19 total tackles. Dylan Moses is a 2017 signing that you're high on. Number 2 rated outside linebacker in the country, 3rd rated prospect overall out of Florida. 2 things that stand out to me here is the inexperience. The talent is, of course, there. It's always there for Alabama at every position. But the issue is with inexperience, and also that what's a good thing is you've got a list of players, and almost all of them are capable of playing both inside and outside. It's a very versatile group. Guys can play multiple positions within the linebacking core.
Absolutely. And this is another thing. Saban loves to cross-train his guys because if you're not going to play inside linebacker, he's going to prepare you for outside linebacker. And it's his way of making you more marketable for the NFL. I got a chance to talk with Rashaan Evans during spring ball prior to the summer, and the conversation was on Ben Davis, one of the linebackers who came in with Mack Wilson. Remember, Ben Davis and Mack Wilson, best friends. They both came into that 2016 signing class together. Ben Davis out of Gordo High School in Gordo, Alabama, a couple of miles outside Tuscaloosa. Mack Wilson from the Montgomery, Alabama area. And Rashaan Evans told me the reason why Nick Saban cross-trains his linebackers and why this is good for Ben Davis is to make him not only more marketable for the NFL, but it broadens that versatility. So if somebody gets hurt, you instantly have somebody that knows something about that spot to come in, fill in that role, and have no drop-off. Saban cross-trains defensive linemen. He cross-trains linebackers. He cross-trains DBs into becoming receivers. He does this, and I know he's the mad scientist, and we wonder, why is he doing this? Why is he putting these players through this type of difficulty? He does this, Mark, so in case somebody gets hurt, he already has somebody with an idea of what to do. So that's why he does all of the cross-training that he does.
Mark Rogers TV, joined by Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama each and every Wednesday night. So if nothing else, we supply you with plenty of coverage of Alabama football each and every Wednesday night, but mostly throughout the week here on Mark Rogers TV. If you love college football, you got to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Mark Rogers TV. If you don't love college football, hey, I'll leave that up to you to make the call. But if you love college football, then you got to subscribe. You can also catch the entire audio conversation at Podbean and also at iTunes. So we have broken down. Stephen mostly has the Alabama front for 2017 on defense and also the linebacking core. We also want to delve into the SEC top 5. So that's another bit of content that we provide you each and every offseason as we look at the top 10 at each position in college football nationally. We also break down the conferences, and especially here in the SEC, with the top 5 at each position. So let's get back to the defensive front, a place where Alabama has thrived, of course, but there's another number of notable players, even with the absence of Derek Barnett and Myles Garrett moving on to the NFL prominently, Stephen. So give us your top 5 along the defensive front in the SEC.
This was hard for me, Mark, but I got a chance to really put this down. So at number 5, I got Jabari Zingaya out of Florida. I got him at number 5. Had a great freshman year last year. I think he had 5 to 5.5 sacks. And the reason why he's so important, along with C.C. Jefferson, is you look at what Florida lost in the secondary. Quincy Wilson gone, Jalen Tees-Tabor gone, also Marcus May gone, and at that linebacking core, Jarrett Davis gone. So he's going to have to, Jabari Zingaya is going to have to really get after the quarterback now, because with youth in the secondary, you're asking your young guys in the secondary to stay on these receivers, stay on these routes for as long as you possibly can. And when that happens, the quarterback's trying to find time to get these guys to work back to the football. When you have a pass rusher like Zingaya is, that's getting after the quarterback, that's forcing him to throw the football before he's ready to, or force a sack and then complete pass, that allows your secondary to really settle in and play their style of football. So Zingaya, very important in getting to the quarterback and taking some of that pressure off the secondary. So Jabari Zingaya of Florida is number 5. Number 4 to me, I like Marcel Frazier out of Mizzou. Charles Harris is gone. Now it's Marcel Frazier's turn. His job in that SEC East, being able to affect the likes of Jacob Eason at Georgia, Malik Zaire or Felipe Franks, or whoever's playing quarterback at Florida. When you look at Tennessee, it lost Joshua Dobbs. Whoever steps up and mans that quarterback spot, Marcel Frazier, got to attack him. also Steven Johnson at Kentucky, and whoever Missouri draws from the SEC West. So Marcel Frazier did a good job studying Charles Harris last year. The team has bought in to Barry Odom as the head coach, taking over for Gary Pinkel. But now it's Marcel Frazier's time to step up and be that guy, be the next Charles Harris, be that pass rusher for the Tigers. He's at number 4. Number 3, to me, I think he's better than this number 3 spot, but because of where Ole Miss is internally as a program, with the sanctions, with the NCAA coming in, you don't know what could happen to Freeze. He could coach the whole season. He could be let go at the middle part of the season, depending on where the NCAA is in question with the judgment. But at number 3, I'm going Marquise Haynes. You cannot deny the talent this young man is. I was at the Alabama-Ole Miss game a season ago, and I saw this kid knock Jalen Hurts' head off. And Haynes is one of the purest pass rushers in the conference. Quick feet, great hands, tremendous explosion off the football. And when he hits, you know it's him because he's going to leave a mark, displaying that land shark defense for what it is. And he's got to be the anchor now. The Kimdichi's gone. You look at a secondary that, yes, it returns Kendarius Webster, but not much back there aside from Kendarius Webster. So Marcus Haynes has to be the anchor for that land shark defense, and Hugh Freeze to pull it through despite the tough times it's facing from the NCAA. At number 2, I got Deshaun Hand out of Alabama. This is his defensive line now. He's weighted behind Jaron Reed. He's weighted behind A'Shawn Robinson. He's weighted behind Jonathan Allen and Dalvin Thomas, and he's weighted behind the older guys. He's the older guy now, and it's now his time. He has 7 sacks in his career, but he was recruited as a 5-star from Woodbridge, Virginia in 2014. Everybody's been waiting for him to burst. They've been waiting for him to emerge. They've been waiting for his time to be the guy, and now it's his time. He's number 2. At number 1, come on, Mark, Arden, the man Key from LSU, number 1 on this list. This guy is a proven sack monster. He's got style in his suit game, in his clothing game, but he is the sack monster, especially with Dalvin Gottschall gone and with head coach Ed Orgeron wanting to beat Alabama in recruiting, wanting to beat Alabama on the field, wanting to win an SEC championship for the first time since 2011, wanting to win a national championship for the first time since 2007. And in the SEC, Mark, you know as well as I do, it starts with defense. Number 1, LSU's Arden Key.
So a few other guys, Stephen, to keep track of this season. Deron Payne, obviously, on the Alabama front as well, matching Deshaun Hand. Trenton Thompson was a guy that really flashed in the final game for Georgia against TCU. He had 3 sacks as the Bulldogs came back from 9 down to win that game going away. Marcus Haynes with a lot of bad news on the Ole Miss front. Of course, you highlighted Haynes' career there at Ole Miss and what you saw him do from the sideline. But Haynes, one of the few bright spots in terms of offseason news when he decided to shun the NFL for one more year and stay in Oxford. Denzel Ware out of Kentucky is a player that you could either list as an outside linebacker or a D end who racked up 12 tackles for loss and 5.5 sacks for a Kentucky front 7 that's a little bit, it's not as deep as the big teams in the SEC, as the better teams, but in terms of star power, they've got a couple players that are extremely talented up front, and a guy that's really going to be key, I think, in keeping Auburn in step with LSU and possibly challenging Alabama, especially considering the losses along the defensive front for Auburn, would be Marlon Davidson, who had 38 tackles, and they need him to pressure the quarterback and get into the backfield more often, disrupt the offense more than he has. He's been stout, he's been strong, he's been capable, but he needs to become a breakout player and really do damage for Auburn to maintain the defensive front play that they've had over the last couple years. All right, we're talking SEC's best at defensive line. We move it to linebacker and a number of players to consider here. So, Stephen M., your top 5 at the linebacker position as we head toward 2017.
This is the year where I'm going to be a little bit of a disappointing, Bill. Mark, I didn't have a top 5 prepared. I had a top 3. Did not have all 5 because I've been busy.
Hey, Stephen, we can pick this up next week. We'll let you get back to work. It's not like I've done it either. I've made my lists, but I haven't broken it down to a top 5 yet.
I have not either, and I would be very, very remiss to not give the fan base a legit top 5.
Yes, and that's what we're going to do. So I have a lot of homework to do myself. I want to look at a few things because it would be easy for us just to spit out a list. We know 10 or 12 guys at each position that we could just, okay, I'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but we want to do our due diligence for the fan base, as you so aptly put it, and I will match you with the top 5 list as well in linebacker in the SEC. And as we continue to run down the Alabama Crimson Tide position by position, we've knocked out the D linemen and the linebackers, and we'll continue again next week with Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama, and maybe we'll have some news as well as we head toward Hoover and SEC Media Days. Stephen, we always appreciate it, man.
No problem. In early SEC Media Days, I got to get my suit prepared and take on Hoover.
Okay. Do you have a certain thought that you're giving to the suit selection and the peripheries as well?
I have a thought process. I'm going through 3 different ones, and the best one will be ironed out the Sunday night going into that Monday morning.
And will you be there all 4 days?
I will definitely be there the Bama day. More than likely, it'll be 2 or 3 days. It will not be all 4, 2 or 3.
2 or 3 days. So will you change it up? Give us a different look each day?
Definitely. Got to have that chameleon effect.
Okay, very nice. Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama. Please join him there for great coverage on Alabama sports top to bottom. And, of course, here at Mark Rogers TV, we talk college football nonstop, 24/7, 365. All right, Stephen, we will see you next week, if not sooner.
Appreciate it, Mark. Thank you.